You're listening to Relating with Jen Funk, where we are getting honest about the relationships that matter most. If you want stronger, more connected relationships with the people you love, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Well, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Relating with Jen Funk. I am Jen, relationship coach and your host, and I'm so glad that you're here with me today, especially because this is going live on Christmas Day. So Merry Christmas to all of you out there that celebrate Christmas, and chances are you might have a very full day. So you may not be listening to this on Christmas Day. You might be listening to this the week between Christmas and New Year's. And if so, I really want you to hear this, and that is that this week distorts how we feel about almost everything, especially our relationships. When we feel low or unsettled or disappointed or we're grieving, any feeling we don't really want to feel, our brain goes searching for a reason. It immediately looks for a reason that we're feeling this way we don't want to feel. And this week, the week between Christmas Day and New Year's Day, a lot of people decide that the reason that they are feeling this way must be because of the relationship. Now, in today's episode, I am going to help you understand why this week messes with our perspective entirely and why it's not the time to judge your relationship too harshly, and how to move through this time without creating some sort of story about your relationship that simply isn't true, and then that be what you carry into the new year. Because I'll tell you, this week it's kind of strange, right? It's like emotionally weird for a lot of us, myself included. And it's one of the most misunderstood weeks of all the year because the buildup is over. The rush of December, all the planning, all the pressure, managing all of the expectations of the season. And then all of a sudden, boom, it just suddenly stops, right? It's over. And then what you're left with is kind of an emotional letdown. And maybe it's really quiet all of a sudden, or maybe you still have lots of family in your house and maybe it's too much togetherness. But it's that subtle feeling that something is just off during this week, and not necessarily terrible or bad, but just most of us get a little unsettled emotionally this time of year. And when we're feeling emotionally unsettled, then we start asking ourselves questions like, why do I feel this way? And why do I feel so disconnected from the people that I love? And why do I suddenly want to run around and clean everything and put it all away and reset my whole life? And that last one is 100% me, by the way. That's why I threw in that example. Listen, every year after Christmas, I love Christmas, by the way. I love it. I get excited. I decorated early this year and I just loved everything, having the tree up and everything. But I get this restless energy when it's over. The decorations are suddenly really annoying to me. The house feels totally chaotic. There's stocking stuffers left in little piles of each kid where they've left some things out. And I just feel completely out of my routine. And all of a sudden I want everything put away. I want it cleaned up. I want to reset everything. I want a fresh start into the new year. And for a long time, I thought that urge to do that meant that something was wrong, that I just wanted to race to the end of the year and just start everything over. But what I actually learned is that urge to reset and get my life back in order isn't information. That behavior isn't trying to tell me something about my life. So it's not information, it's more like regulation. So it's just my nervous system saying like, hey girl, you've been going crazy for a long time and I'm just trying to regain some control here. And here's why that distinction matters. It matters because a lot of people do the same thing emotionally with their relationships this week. Now, I want to say before we go any further, because this is really important, that for some of you, the holidays are hard because the relationship itself is hard. It's in that kind of a place. It's not just that December was busy or the holidays were exhausting. It's because really your relationship isn't in a great place. And we will talk about that too. But first, we need to understand why this particular week can really distort how things feel, even when real issues do exist. So here's the main point I want you to understand. When we feel bad, like I said, our brains go looking for a reason for this. Our minds do not like unexplained discomfort. So when we are feeling disappointed or sad or unsettled, our brain goes hunting for a cause, for a reason. And our relationship often becomes the prime suspect right there. It's close, it's emotional, it's important. So we start thinking things like, oh my gosh, maybe we're drifting apart. Maybe this relationship isn't as fulfilling as it once was or as I thought it was. Or maybe something is really wrong with us. But not every uncomfortable feeling that you have is a relationship diagnosis. This week is really, it's emotionally rich, it's emotionally noisy. There's a lot going on, but it is often emotionally inaccurate. Okay. It's unreliable emotionally. So for many people, this week feels like disappointment. Many of us are reflecting back. Maybe we're thinking that the holidays weren't what we had hoped they would be. Maybe we are reflecting back on the year and thinking how it didn't really unfold the way that we thought that it would. Maybe you are thinking that some things didn't change that you hoped would. And then the things that did change were the things that you hoped stayed the same forever. And then for some people, it goes beyond that. It's not just disappointment, but sometimes it's real grief. You know, even if it's been a while since you lost someone that you loved, like it's been 4 years since I lost my mom, but the holidays seem to just open up those wounds, right? And you're acutely aware again of who's missing. You can't miss the empty chair at the table. And so it kind of opens up all of those wounds again, and you're navigating that during this week after Christmas. So whether it is disappointment or it's actual grief, the effects are similar. You still feel like a hollow and an emptiness, this unsettled feeling, and your brain is trying to explain it. So many times your brain wants to put that on your relationship. And so I often say to my clients that sometimes couples don't lose connection, but they lose their energy. It's kind of like watching two people go out and run a marathon and then they're collapsing at the finish line and wondering if something is wrong with their bodies. It's like, no, nothing's wrong with your body. You just ran a marathon. That's kind of like what December represents, right? This week doesn't really tell us the truth about how strong your relationship is, but it does tell you the truth about how tired you are. That's for sure. So then here's another layer that makes it all a little bit more tricky. This is the week where, again, people tend to get really reflective. So we're looking back on the year, we're noticing what didn't happen for us, we're noticing what didn't change, we're noticing what we hoped would be different. And while we're in that reflection period, people start kind of quietly making decisions about their life and decisions about their job and decisions about their relationship. And without realizing that the lens that we're looking through is distorted because you are exhausted and emotionally overloaded after the holidays. Now, we all know that nothing dramatic needs to happen for couples to drift apart. This can happen sometimes in relationships, and you just have to work at it to get it back aligned. But sometimes you aren't really drifting apart. And it's just the conclusions that we make when we're tired and left alone with our thoughts, trying to make meaning of all the feelings that this week brings up for us. So here's what I don't want you to do this week. I do not want you to evaluate the state of your relationship this week. And I don't want you to decide what the holidays really mean, or I don't want you to assume emotional distance means relationship failure of some sort. And I really don't want you to rush into any kind of big conversations or any big fixes in your relationship. It's really not the week for the, hey, we really need to talk about us conversation. This is the week to let the dust settle and everybody get your nervous systems back in check and being gentle with ourselves and being gentle with our energy. Now, I do want to say this because I know there are some of you out there that are thinking, well, hey, Jen, that sounds really great, but what if the holidays were hard? Because again, it is the relationship. It is the relationship that's hard. And I do want to be really clear that this episode is not meant to say that those real problems don't exist. Certainly, some relationships absolutely need attention and repair and support. But what I am saying is this: it's just not a reliable week to decide what those problems are and what you're going to do about them. Exhaustion and emotional overload and disappointment and grief distort perspective, even when the issues are real. So there is a big difference between noticing, hey, this needs some work, and interpreting those things that need work as hopeless or urgent or unfixable. This is just a week to notice things. That's all. This is not a week for making any kind of big decisions, not a week for deciding things. If things truly do feel broken right now, again, I'm not asking you to ignore that. I'm just asking you to slow down the timeline a little bit, because you don't have to solve that this week. You don't have to define what your future is going to look like this week. You don't have to figure everything out this week. You will get more clarity on these things when your nervous system isn't completely out of whack. So, what do you do instead then? I have 3 steps for you. The first step is to make sure that you are naming the feeling that you're experiencing accurately. So, you would ask yourself, am I exhausted? Am I disappointed? Am I coming down from a long, emotional stretch where I was just pushing myself in all the ways? Am I feeling heavy after reflecting on my life and reflecting on the year? Am I missing someone? When you name what the feeling is that you're having, when you name that correctly, then you aren't in danger of it hijacking your relationship and convincing you of something that isn't true. The second step, get ahead of any kind of misinterpretation with your partner. So, in other words, if you notice yourself feeling reflective, you're pulling back, maybe you're a little quieter around the house, maybe you're less affectionate, you want to spend more time alone, you're kind of lost in your thoughts, more up in your head. Certainly, if you're noticing it, your partner's noticing it. So, it's really helpful for you to get ahead of it and say that out loud to your partner before they start trying to figure it out and fill in the blanks for themselves about what's going on with you. Now, it doesn't have to be a big conversation. It can be something very simple, just to let them know, hey, I just wanted to let you know, I feel like I'm kind of emotionally crashing from the holidays and feeling a little flat. I'm feeling a little tired, and I don't think there's anything wrong between us. I just wanted to let you know I'm trying to just manage my own emotions and thoughts this week. That one sentence right there can prevent a lot of misinterpretation. It relieves your partner from wondering, why are they so quiet? Why isn't she talking? Did I do something wrong? Is our marriage in trouble? All the normal things that we wonder when our partner starts shutting down and getting quiet and no one says anything. Now, clearly, when no one says anything, then disconnection starts growing and you're getting farther and farther apart, not even because there was any conflict, but through the assumptions that one person makes about the other. So when you get ahead of it and you loop them in and let them know what's going on with you, again, you're not asking for reassurance from them. You are not trying to process the relationship with them. You're just saying, hey, these are my feelings. They belong to me. It's about me. It's not about us. It will be very helpful to let your partner know that. Step 3 is just stabilize the relationship. You don't have to try to solve anything. You just want to keep things stable and steady. This week is not about reconnecting deeply or fixing anything. When your emotions are all over the place, stability is what feels best at this time. Like shared routines, maybe getting back into watching a show that you were watching, or just having low expectations of each other in general this week. Maybe you're sitting in the same room, but you're doing different things. Somebody's on their phone, somebody's reading a book or watching TV. It's like being near each other, but without a lot of pressure to it. Maybe you go on a walk, but you just kind of are lost in your thoughts together and you don't have this heavy pressure to carry a conversation. I'm all about deep connection between partners for sure, but connection does not have to be deep right now. It doesn't have to be deep this week. It just needs to stay intact and be steady. So again, those steps for this week are simply step 1, name your feeling accurately. Step 2, get ahead of those misinterpretations and share that information with your partner, how you're feeling. And step 3 is just to have some shared routines, keep the relationship stable and steady, but with low pressure. So if all you do this week is rest, notice some things, but don't try to make meaning of everything, don't make any big decisions, then you're doing exactly what you need to be doing this week in this weird space between Christmas and New Year's. And if this year did not turn out the way that you had hoped, and you are really feeling real disappointment, that disappointment deserves compassion, not a bunch of quick conclusions based on you not having the capacity to think clearly about things. And I do want to go back to those of you who are listening who really are struggling in your relationships, even before the holidays or before this week, and you really need some support with that. You don't have to carry it alone. This episode is not meant to minimize that. It's just meant to help you not make things heavier while you're feeling really tired. Remember that repair and change are possible for your relationship. And sometimes, the bravest thing that you can do is just acknowledge that you don't want to keep doing it the same way. And if that is you and I can support you in any way, then just please reach out to me through my website. Next week, we are going to be talking about setting intentions and goals for your relationship in the new year, but not from a place of fear or frustration, but we want to be setting those goals and intentions from a place that comes from real clarity. So remember, be gentle with yourself this week. Let your nervous system get regulated. Don't make any big decisions. And I will see you in the new year and in the next episode. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining me on Relating with Jen Funk. To find out how we can work together and get free resources to strengthen your relationships, head to jenfunkcoaching.com and sign up for my newsletter. Till then, stay connected, stay encouraged, and I'll see you next week.